Hey everyone, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, and I'm again here for another USDGC recap, thoughts, overview, preview, whatever you want to call it. I'm here again. It's Friday night, and I realize that, well, understandably, many of you have better things to be doing right now, but if you don't, or maybe you're watching this before the action actually takes place come Saturday, well then hopefully maybe I've provided just a few moments of entertainment and or insight. So I apologize if you don't mind. I'm going to take just 2 seconds here. I want to put the link and I'm going to make it available, put it out there on Facebook, and see if we get a few more people to join us in the chat tonight. Live USDGC Day 3 recap on YouTube. You have to talk while you type. That's the only way to do it, guys. So tonight, let me tell you that I honestly do plan to keep it a little bit shorter, and there's a few reasons for that. One, it's Friday night. I don't know how many of you guys are around, what you guys are up to, what you guys are thinking, but it's Friday night. People got things to do. I don't. I'm here talking disc golf. So, two, though, I was somewhat preoccupied today where I didn't get a chance to consume all of the actual live coverage today. This might sound crazy, or maybe it doesn't. I was with a good family friend today. Thank you, Disc Baron, for the super chat. I was with a good family friend today, and well, I'll just tell you, she needed some new labels printed with her cat. She needed an updated picture of her cat on her labels. I mean, it's been a year since she last had cat labels made up, so I was doing that with her, doing a few things around her house, trying to help her out. She's always been an amazing family friend of ours, and so I spent some of my day with her. She even graciously actually said, hey, she said, a few months ago when you were doing a live broadcast, I took some pictures of you on my screen, and she wanted to share them with me. So very, very sweet woman. Big shout out to Crazy Cat Lady. Someone who I worked with way back when I was actually in college, and I had an internship, and we've become friends and remained friends throughout all these years. So I didn't see it all. I got a little bit of it on the side while I was doing other computer things for her. I, of course, looked a little bit at UDisc here tonight. I talked with Johnny V. I kind of participated in the UDisc chat for just a few minutes. So I'm going to give you what I think I saw. I really want this to be a little bit more interactive tonight. I'd love to know some more of your thoughts because, again, you guys may have consumed it with a little bit more intent and with a little bit more of a dialed eye than I did today. But a few things did jump out at me, so that's what I'm going to talk about and get right to it. All right? And I'll lead with what Juice, the 511, said here. Heat. Heat was clearly an issue again today. People were talking about how it was unpleasant. It was another day of similar conditions. And tomorrow, I think, for the first time, we're going to see a little bit of a reprieve. In fact, I can confirm that with you. But last time I had double checked, I think the weather called for somewhere around 75 degrees for a high tomorrow. So a very, very different situation than what we've been experiencing or they've been experiencing over the last few days. Excuse me. They're saying there is a high of 71 and a 40% chance of rain, 63% humidity. So those are all things to think about, okay, how that's going to factor in. Thankfully, we're not going to see it shortened due to a hurricane or anything like that like we did a few years ago. But it looks like tomorrow, it says showers in the morning, then cloudy in the afternoon, not as warm, high of 71, winds east to northeast at 5 to 10. I'm not there, but I got to tell you, that sounds like, I said, an amazing reprieve, first and foremost, and it also sounds like really, really good conditions, because if they're really going off around that 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock Eastern time, whatever it ultimately is, hopefully any weather that's come through, maybe some of the lower divisions, or not lower divisions, some of the players that are a little bit lower on the standings are going to have some of that, but looks like it might be clear. All right, so what I have is a few brief notes. That probably won't be so brief, but I do have a few notes, and I want to talk to you guys about them just a little bit. First off, the cut line, or should I say the cash line, is really the main concern there. Right now, what we're looking at is top 50, and ties are the ones that are going to cash. And that conveniently, there's nothing more than randomness out of that, that comes in right at even par right now. So if you're at even through 3 rounds, you're actually inside the cash line at the moment. So that's something that's going to be shifting. That's something that we find on UDisc, which, again, one of the amazing updates and things that they provided after all the years, or early on in the years, I should say, but as they continue to improve, that was yet another great improvement that they've put in. Thank you, Jimbo Slice, for the super chat. The cut line right now, though, is even par. So when you think about some tournaments and you think about what it takes to cash, how good you have to be, you talk about places like Beaver State being just ridiculously tough to cash at. You got to shoot like 10-20 or 10-25 golf for the weekend. Well, here we are at even par is what you need in order to cash. Now, there's two people specifically. Of course, there's a ton of great people right on or near that cut line. But 2 of them that jump out as 2 of our, well, they're both 5-time world champions, so I think they deserve the conversation piece. Paige Pierce, sitting at plus 19, I believe, when I last looked. I believe Paige sits at 19 over par. She finished really strong today. She finished birdie, which I know some other players like Nathan Queen would die for that right now, but she finished birdie to ultimately get herself to a total of plus 19. I'm going to scroll and triple check my numbers here. I think that's what I saw on the a little bit earlier. But yeah, she's sitting at plus 19. She had a plus 4 today. So she had a plus 2, a plus 4. So what is that? Plus 6, and then that plus 13 yesterday. So really yesterday being her outlier here so far. I did hear her briefly on the broadcast. She was talking about that cut line or that cash line. She says it's still her goal. It's still something that she wants to do. And she said she's going to have a really solid round tomorrow. And I hope for everyone in the Paige Pierce camp that she does have a really solid round tomorrow. I just don't see the cash line happening for her tomorrow. I don't. I mean, I feel like she'd have to shoot something just truly out of this world, as in like double digits. She just has so many people as she sits at plus 19, and then there's just so many people between her at she's at plus 19 at 91st place, and then she's trying to get up into inside 50th place. Again, I wish her the best of luck. I couldn't be more excited because that would actually cost me a whole bunch of money as I'm supporting her through the Chains for Charity. But I just don't see it. But I'm going to be pulling for it nonetheless. All right. So that's what we saw. Paige Pierce. A few other notes that I had on Paige though, as she talked about cashing and where that's at and what that really means. I mentioned she had 3 more birdies on the day. She had the final 2 holes. All right, and then she joined the broadcast, and that was a few of the moments that I actually did get to see and listen to and pay attention to. And I just can't say it enough that she is so gracious with her time and with her energy when she does some post-production commentary. I know she's done it for me a number of times. And then when she shows up and sits in on a broadcast, she's done that for us before at Smashbox. She's done it out in the course. Now she's done it inside the actual booth a few times. I mean, what was that, Ledgestone or Worlds, where she came into the booth in the middle of her round because our booth was located right there off the side of the course, kind of like it is here. And she's great at it. So I think that's awesome to see. I'd love to see and hear more from her as time goes on. You know, we're obviously a lot of people talking about Ken Climo and just how great and how natural he is in the booth. I feel like you get a lot of great insight when you're listening to Paige Pierce as well. And she's got as many world titles as any other woman out there of all time. So I'm going to go ahead and say she knows what she's talking about. So great to hear her, and I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out with regard to that. So good luck to you tomorrow, Paige. Kristin Tattar, who I'm also following in terms of my Chains for Charity, she had 3 more birdies today. One of the statistics that I quickly looked at or put together was, it seems like, and this will get discussed a little more later, she's got hole 10's number, 10 did come in as the easiest hole today relative to par. I know I've talked about that in the past, but she's gotten hole 10 all 3 rounds. So when she's racking up her birdies, I'm sure she's feeling comfortable, and she clearly knows what she's doing out there. And hole 10 has been one that maybe she's excited to get to as she turns that back half of the course. But I got to tell you, I'd love to see her go out and finish strong. I believe she shot plus 13 on the day. And then, as I mentioned, she got hole 10 again, and that was her 3rd time. She's gotten hole 7 2 out of the 3 rounds. So 10 and 7, I don't know if she's throwing dice or if she plays Yahtzee or what. I don't know how that works. But holes 10 and 7 seem to be some of her favorites. All right. Before we go into another player, since I just got done harping on hole 10, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. It did come in as the easiest hole relative to par today. Maybe no surprise. We see people eagle it. We see people throw out of bounds and still get up and down and then walk away with a par. When things like that happen, you're setting up. I'm not going to call it an easy hole by any means, but I think that's why we see it. Some of those bogeys, on the scorecards, obviously are looking or can be easily negated by so many birdies, but then you can sprinkle in a few eagles as well, and that's, again, you need a special throw and you need a lot of confidence to be going after that shot for the eagle. But we've seen a number of people pick up the eagle out there. So 3.39 is how that one was coming in today. The hardest hole on the course is 4.56. It played 0.56 above par, and that's hole number 18. So hole 18 struggled, made things a little bit more difficult for everyone out there today, and maybe really no surprise. That pin location, the tee shot that requires a good angle, the really difficult approach. There's at no point, and this is really crucial when you're out there playing, at no point on hole 18 are you comfortable. You're stressed on the tee, you're probably stressed on the approach, and then you could be easily stressed on the putt as well. Unless you're parked, you're thinking about the the ramifications and what you're going to find out there on hole number 18. And then, of course, it's the final hole. And you may or may not have just been stressed out coming off of hole 17 and everything it has to offer. So we're going to see it in a different pin location, not quite as iconic of a spot or in a traditional sense. However, hole number 18 is just a great hole, a great finishing hole, and look for that to maybe be a deciding factor, of course, tomorrow. I mean, that sounds like an easy statement. Oh, really? The final hole might matter, but everything I just said, and then you're playing for the major, it just puts that much pressure on 18. Now, there may not be any pressure because of how you just played hole 17. That's another story. We saw, of course, Nathan Queen just, I'm going to say, limping in. He really, really struggled out there as he came in today on hole numbers 17 and 18. And, of course, what I'm talking about, him not getting in bounds, which is always heartbreaking. It's, of course, heartbreaking to see it in the final round, even maybe more so. But today, he doesn't get his first 2 shots in bounds. He finally gets his 3rd one in, and then he makes the putt to somewhat, stop the bleeding. So he walks away with the triple bogey 6, and then he ultimately walks away with the single bogey 5 to finish out. So he goes 4 up in the last 2 holes, and if you do some math, that's the difference between him and James Conrad, who's sitting in first right now. So if I haven't mentioned already, we've got James Conrad, 21 under par, Eagle McMahon at 19, Albert Tom and Nathan Queen both tied in 3rd place at 17 under par. Chris Dickerson, right behind them at 16 under par. Okay. So when I think about the holes, those were some of the things that came in today. The hardest hole, the easiest hole. We'll see how both of those play out tomorrow. Hole 18 tomorrow will not play as the hardest hole. There is a shorter pin there. That's what they'll be playing to. So hole 18 will not be as tough tomorrow. But again, knee knockers and hole 17 behind you, so on and so forth. I guess my question, after I've kind of given, and Arby's maybe has, well, actually, Arby's didn't play into hole. They were playing into a different hole. There's been a lot of conversation, of course, about holes 3 and 4, the new holes 3 and 4. And hole 4 specifically, I keep harping on the fact that it's 299 feet, and we've seen so few birdies out there. Was it 6 the first day, or 4 the first day, and 6 yesterday maybe? Well, today, they got it dialed. Today they're up to 11 players that had birdies on it. We saw some people on the lead card struggle with it, but 11 total players had birdies on hole number 4 today. I'm not sure if I recall how far they had to do it to throw it in, but yesterday I believe there were 7 birdies. 4 of them were from outside the circle. So tells you nobody's getting really close to it. Today, 11 total birdies. All right. So let's get back up to some specifics with some other players, of course. I mean, it's tough to almost say, like, what's the story of the day? I'd love to know what you guys think about it, but you've got so many different things to follow up. You've got Austin Hannum with the bogey-free 13 under par, smashing the course record and any previous course record that's been shot out here this year. You've got Joel Freeman shooting 11. Okay, so he's already overshadowed there a little bit by Austin Hannum. You have the Eagle Albatross, which is insane, of course. He cards the 2. That's Nikko Castro I'm talking about. Cards the 2 on hole number 13, the 888 hole, 999. So that's obviously a big story. And then you could also follow it up a little bit about just the non-spectacular play that we saw from some of the guys on the leader card, or should we say not as consistently good as they've been. And then on top of it, the other story I think that's out there mainly would have to be James Conrad, who decides to just turn on the turbo boosters today and go out there and get some stuff done and play very well, matching his score that he shot yesterday. Not necessarily a hot score out there on the round, but going out and matching what he did yesterday. So very incredible effort by James Conrad. So let me break those down one at a time. I love live, but somehow I missed. I don't know, cat labels. I think I missed actually for seeing it live, seeing the Albatross the first time. Of course, I've now since then seen it. It was awesome. Congratulations to Nikko. Congratulations to the crew for capturing those shots. I will continue to say it, and this isn't just a soapbox about live, but I can't imagine a shot like that only in this day and age, only being in post-production and having to wait for it, or hoping that it was recorded on a phone in that case or something like that, if we only had post. The fact that everyone got to see it live, myself excluded, is incredible. So congratulations, awesome shot. You know, sometimes people question a little bit of Nikko's, how much of his emotions he wears on his sleeve, and for any negative emotions we've maybe ever seen in the past, I feel like we saw tenfold for positivity during that during that celebration. It was awesome to see, and Nikko talked about staying positive. Nikko talked about how bad he wants this, and if he's can go out there and get it. And that obviously was a little bit of a momentum shift for him. He had been struggling up until that point, and he had dipped himself down, I think, into, I don't know, somewhere in the 20s or something like that. I mean, he had really been struggling with how his round had been going. I know he was over par at that point. I think he was 3 over par. And then he goes out there and does that. And then ultimately finishes himself, 2 under. So he goes Albatross, birdie, and then pars out from there. And to finish -2 on the day from where he was at was very impressive. And then Chris Clemens, again, he had a day that wasn't like his previous 2. His previous 2 days, I think he's had 1 or maybe 2 bogeys. And then today, he was kind of all over. When it was all said and done, he had 5 bogeys and a double to finish out the day. And then, I don't know, if you do some math, he must have had about 6 or 7 birdies in there to ultimately come out even. So he drops down those 4 spots into that tie for 5th, along with Nikko, and, loses the ground that he was right there in and so much in control of. Now, clearly, he sits at 16 under. He's 5 off. Very few courses are you like, wow, 5 off, no big deal. Well, it's kind of not out there. We've seen that. And I'm not, we don't always have the extreme cases from Nikko, who carded a 2 today, and then seeing other players that might have carded an 11 or 12 or 13. You don't expect that much of a swing per se, but we know that on any given hole, you find trouble, you maybe get flustered, you throw out of bounds a few times, you're going to walk away possibly with a big number, and you're going to crush all your hopes and dreams of taking away a USDGC title. And tomorrow, it's all about maintaining all of those emotions and hopefully keeping your mistakes at bay, keeping them in check. Everyone can have a mistake out there. It's how do you follow up? How do you respond? And that perfectly, actually, unintentionally, will segue me right over to Austin and Joel today. Joel shoots 11 under. He is bogey free, and I believe he had 2 or 3, maybe even more out of bounds. I'm going to click on it. He had 2 out of bounds. He found himself out of bounds on 9, and he found himself out of bounds on 12. And both of those, he was still able to get up and down and walk away with a par. So whatever mistakes they made, they kept him in check. Whether they had to make a hero shot to follow up, or they just had to make a solid shot, or whatever the case might be. In Joel's case, he had a 16-footer to put it in, and he had a 5-footer to put it in to still walk away with par on those 2 holes. So he didn't work too hard in that sense. He had a 100% scramble rate then on the day, which is very impressive. And then in a very similar sense, Austin Hannum with the insane round today. He starts out, 6 out of 7. He goes out. He gets, I'll say, just the birdie on 10. I'm not sure how he exactly approached it. I'm wondering if I could figure that out. But on 10, he stays in bounds, and he makes a 16-footer for the birdie. So very impressive. He actually had 3 out-of-bounds strokes today. So he won up to Joel in the out-of-bounds department, but had just as many bogeys, which was 0. And that's incredible. To go out to that course, have 0 birdies. We saw 0 people do that in day 1. And I think we only saw a couple people do it yesterday, if I recall. And then today, I believe the only 2 people we saw do it were the 2 that had the 2 hottest rounds in Joel Freeman and Austin Hannum, shooting 11 and 13 respectively. Just can't say enough about that. So you can make a mistake. It's how do you respond? And whether that's experience, whether that's confidence, whether that's the hero shot, whatever the case might be, if you make a mistake, it's how do you respond to that mistake out there, and not let it, not let the wheels of the bus, so to speak, come off and you crash and burn. So. And then you have to talk about as well, Austin on 13B on 888. He throws in from 115 feet, not quite as far as Nikko, but 115 feet to walk away with the 3 today. So incredible follow-up. He had just gone OB on 12. He's been out of bounds 3 times throughout the round. And then on hole number 13, he throws in from 115 feet. The other number that jumps off me at the page, on hole 5, when he took a birdie today, he had a 49-footer. So he had a few of those things clicking for him. All right. We need a commercial break. I don't have a commercial to play, but I'd love to give you one. Okay. I do not know why Matt Bell DNF'd. I know that was a question that was out there. Again, I apologize. I wasn't able to put on my full reporter cap tonight. No. But I do not know. I'm guessing something injury related would be my only logical assumption. I hope that it wasn't heat. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I'd rather have him maybe a little dehydrated rather than any kind of a bigger, long-standing injury. But I do not know the story as to why Matt Bell withdrew. I do apologize for that. All right, so I just talked about the Circle 2 putt. Oh, Johnny V out there, thanks, says he sprained his finger. And that also leads to another point. I'll segue briefly. Eagle McMahon, who we're going to see on the lead card tomorrow. Eagle McMahon, there was conversation as to whether or not he may have hurt himself out of frustration on 16, on the putt on 16. Again, I didn't see that live. But there was a lot of people talking about, he possibly maybe hurt himself when he punched the ground, I guess. And then, maybe wasn't feeling it on 17 or 18. I cannot speak to that. That's just the rumor that I've heard going around, is that that's what's happened with him. So hopefully he's all right. I don't know if there's any, how much validity there is to it. He did finish from 13 through 18. Most wouldn't complain about it. He finished dead par on those. Just perfectly even keel, par throughout the rest of the round. His only blemish today was hole 7 on the scorecard. So just one bogey. It was hole 7. When he was on hole, when he got done with hole number 12, he was actually, it's where he finished, 6 under. But after hole number 12, he had 7 birdies. So he had 7 birdies in 12 holes. And to see him finish 6 under is maybe somewhat surprising with the way that he was going. But if I recall, didn't we see that out of him on round number 1? He had this incredible start. We were talking about how well he could finish, and then he kind of, struggled on the last few holes. Now today he shot par on them. I don't think that's too bad, but he certainly hasn't been lighting up the back few holes. All right. Moment ago, I mentioned the 49-footer. I mentioned Circle 2. Well, I actually did a few minutes of research to talk about our leader in James Conrad. And James Conrad last year, who ended up in 2nd place, he was trying to chase down McBeth. He came up short. He made it a little bit more close than I think some were thinking at the time. James Conrad last year led the entire tournament in one statistic. And by my foreshadowing or hinting, Circle 2 putting. I believe he was, 61% Circle 2 putting. This year, which is obviously very impressive, I feel like we saw him jumping over a bunch of ropes as it was going on, with that long jump putt that he has, long run up as well. This year, he is leading all players in Circle 1X putting. So clearly the idea of drive for show, putt for dough, whatever cliche you want to throw out there, it seems to be true for him these last 2 years thus far. Again, leading all players. He's at 100% Circle 1X putting, and very impressive for James Conrad. All right, so he's made every single putt inside the circle in 3 rounds. That's how he's in the lead. All right, last year, he went 10 under, 7 under, 7 under, 7 under, finished, whatever that math is, 31 under par. He was 3 off the pace of McBeth, who finished at 34 under. This year, very different story, where last year he started with a 10. This year he starts with just a 3, but then follows it up with a 9 and a 9. And so that's currently putting him at 21 under par. Last year, his final round, he had a 7 under par. To be determined what he's going to do tomorrow. All right, but right now he has that lead. I believe it's the 2-stroke lead, and he's 2 clear of McMahon, and he sits at 21 under par. Again, he had a great back 9. He had an all-around a pretty good day shooting that 9 under par as he did yesterday. Plenty of birdies, especially in the back, which has to give you a little confidence knowing that's where things will be finishing out tomorrow. I had a note, the back half of the course has been very, very good to him. Also, we'll have to see. He's in a different position. Last year he was doing just that. He was chasing Paul McBeth, who I think got sicker and sicker as the week went on in terms of his own personal health. But he got a little bit sicker, and then James just kept playing really solid golf. I mean, there's not a single player in the tournament that if you said, hey, how about we give you a 10-7-7 for the first 3 rounds, and then a 7 to finish, I don't think too many of them would complain about that. So we'll see what he can do tomorrow. I'm expecting him to play really well. He's been under the pressure. He's been there for big events. He's been at this event and knows, what he needs to do. I'd love to know what you guys think. Is James Conrad lining up his first ever major, or will someone like Eagle McMahon, who has just as many tricks in his bag, maybe even a few more, will Eagle McMahon, be able to erase that 2-stroke deficit and then go after him, or could it be from someone else down the list? Albert Tam obviously has come onto the scene to be incredibly entertaining and to prove he is a solid player with a lot of great skill sets. The big arm, the big putts, the big celebrations, all of that awesome stuff. But does he have that experience? Does he have that within him to be able to pull out that fourth round and actually deliver on the largest stage of the year, or possibly of his career up into this point? There's no doubt about that. And then same could be said of Nathan Queen. Nathan, who had a pretty good day, he got over his few little hurdles early on in the round, and then you thought he was going to finish out perfectly fine, as he was on pace to do so, and then just couldn't get it done on hole 17. And that was, I can't say it enough, that's heartbreaking. Even if it is the third round, to watch someone play so consistently. I mean, at that point, he had, a bogey and a double. And then I believe if you look at his previous 2 days, he's had 2 or 3 other total bogeys, maybe. So for him to walk onto 17 and then walk away with that triple bogey it was definitely heartbreaking to see. There's no doubt about that. All right. So we've talked about James Conrad. It'll be great. He was the bridesmaid last year. We'll see what he can do tomorrow. Eagle McMahon has clearly put himself in those positions, as I mentioned, and then Albert Tam and Nathan Queen finishing things off. Something that has to be noted, mainly because I've harped on it, maybe, or I'll say I have. We talk about how this course feels like on any given day, it seems like it can play a little bit easier for a lefty, or someone that's throwing that lefty backhand shot. And Nathan Queen, Chris Clemens, have helped demonstrate that maybe a little bit, again, without taking anything away from their skills. They're clearly, the course is working for them in that sense. There's no complaints there. Then you have such a stark contrast in James Conrad. He literally doesn't throw forehands. Now, I think he said he threw a few out there today. I would love to see them, but I trust that he's continuing to work on that skill. But when you see how great he is at throwing his JK AVR, or maybe a T-bird, or whatever it is that he's throwing for some of those subtle shots, usually it's a JK AVR, it's incredible what he does with it. And to see him then now push himself up there and say, all right, move over lefties, an exclusive backhander's got this, let's get into it. It's incredible, because you think just how different he is than, say, Eagle McMahon, who is so good from both sides, putting both angles and both spins on the disc. It's incredible to see what James Conrad continues to do when he's out there. So on a less than amazing note, you have to talk about, again, the major sweep and all of that. He's going to need a different kind of broom or something. I can't lay into him too much, but Paul McBeth still outside of the cash line. I'll let that sink in just for a moment. 3 rounds into this tournament, a tournament that he's won maybe less times than most of the other big tournaments. All right, it took him a while to get there. He got it in 2015. He got it last year. He's been close. But something about this event, I don't want to say continues to elude him. He's taken it down twice. Do not get me wrong. But something about this event, for him to show up and then to struggle as mightily as he has this year, it just blows my mind. And you can be mean and spiteful, and you can be, anti dishcraft or anti, fanboy, whatever you want to call it. You can love the fact or you can hate the fact, whatever the case might be. But everyone, whether you love them or not, everyone has to admit that it's a fluke. It's weird. It's crazy. I mean, statistics tell you that. If he finished all over the place on any given time, you'd be like, oh, you had an off weekend. Paul's finished outside, the top 7 this year once? And then he has a 10th and a 7th, and then everything else is pretty much like first or second. I mean, it's truly incredible the kind of year he's put together, but yet is struggling the way he is this year. And I'll admit, I don't know any side stories, any backstories. I haven't really reached out to him. The last thing he probably really wants to talk about to anyone is just how bad he's struggling. But I think any fan of the game, again, in his corner or not, has to be scratching their head and saying, what's going on? Like, what is going on? Today, he shoots an even. He remains at +4. And nothing special. 3 birdies and an eagle. He finished par, from 15 out. He had a rough start again. He was 2 over through 4 holes by bogeying 1 and 4 and just not getting it going. Now, I see he's made a little revenge on 10 and 11. I know he struggled there, in the early part of the week, in the first round. But then on 12 and 13, he again went 6-6. And I don't know what to make of it. I really don't know. I didn't drill down a little earlier. I apologize. It's kind of weird to not have him in that conversation as much. But today, 5 out of bounds throws. And one of the birdies he had was from 49 feet on hole 11, and the other one on 14 he had to make from 38 feet. So David out there saying his worst finishes this year are 10th at Vegas, one of the openers, 4th at the Memorial, and I missed the rest, and 6th at the Masters Cup. Everything else is first or second. So, again, it's this very bizarre anomaly, and I don't know what kind of money or wagers are going to be placed that are out there now or will be, but to see him potentially not cash, I mean, that is an honest reality at this point. To see him not cash would just blow some minds out there, for sure. So, pretty incredible. I don't want to harp on it any more than I already have, but you have to talk about it when you talk about his year, his sweep, his dominance, and to watch him struggling for that cash is just incredible. So, we'll see. Last year, I think I even wrote it down, last year when he was sick, when he had the lead, and he still won by 3. Last year he shot, I wrote it down, where was it? He shot a 12. He shot a 12 under on the final round. That would jack him way up in terms of the standings and in terms of the overall. I mean, I don't know what the word would be. I don't want to throw out the word respectable. Clearly, it's been a rough week out there, but maybe he finds that McBeast mode. Maybe it's hidden somewhere, and he can activate it tomorrow. Maybe that's a 10 or a 12, or he goes after a course record. I can tell you, I think he's going to go all out. I could see it going one of 2 ways. I could see him having another 2 or 3 or 5 over, and I could also see him shooting like a 14 or 15 under. Because he's going to go all out. We know that much tomorrow. Clearly, he has nothing to lose at that point. So, all right. Leader card woes, I guess I've kind of indirectly touched on that. We saw, a few of our guys falling off thanks to the way he finished. We're going to see Nathan Queen remain on the lead card, but otherwise, and Eagle McMahon, of course, but then having James Conrad and Albert join the lead card. Playing really solid. We'll see how they can finish things out tomorrow. And in terms of media, again, I'll just openly admit, I did not get to consume nearly as much as I wanted to today, so I don't have as much feedback. I'd love to hear from you guys. I think I'll go to a little bit more active chat here very soon, and if there's things you want to share with me and things that I may have missed or skipped over, I'm sure there are plenty of storylines. I would love to hear them. But in terms of the media, things seem to go pretty well from what I saw. We saw some drone footage. Kenny stepped in at some point, I realize, and gave some insight, of course. Hannah was, I'm sure, very quite researched and ready to go. She always does her homework. And then Jamie, keeping control of the set and doing what he had to do, I'm sure was great. I did touch on earlier just how great I thought it was when Paige Pierce stepped in. I'm not sure if anyone else stepped in or not. The live stream itself, I talked about this a lot yesterday because I did get a chance to watch it more. The live stream itself has been very solid. Of course, there is a potential glitch here and there. There is a challenge here and there in terms of the signal and how they're going on with things. Switching the show, as we call it, literally cutting from one camera to another camera, that can be really tough. The one mistake I saw, maybe there were others, but the one mistake I saw out there was I feel like they were popping up the wrong graphic somehow on hole 18. Was it 18 when they were tapping out? It said something about birdie 2 and birdie 2 and birdie 2 or something like that for a few of the players as they were all tapping out on 18. I'd have to go back and look at it again. But that's a matter of probably just pressing a couple of wrong buttons, even though I think those would feed in. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they did there, how they did it, but that was again, pretty minor mistake at the end of a very long day, at the end of 2 very long days of coverage. But that was the one thing that I noticed jumped out. Christine Jennings, I believe, was doing a few of the interviews. I think I heard one of them, and it sounded like she did really well. Again, her and I had a great chat yesterday, and it's awesome to see fresh new faces out there. I got to tell you, it's not as easy as some people think. Interviews, I think, are a little more conversational and can help hopefully make it a little bit smoother transition, maybe rather than just a stand-up piece of you just trying to give stuff. But seems like she's been doing a really good job. I wish her the best of luck tomorrow. We had a quick chat even tonight about her game plan tomorrow. So I definitely wish her the best on that. And yes, I did see for a moment Seth Muncie, Disc Golf Strong. Huge shout out. Seth is an amazing individual, and he was out there talking about some of the differences, how you warm up in this heat, what you're concerned about in this heat, when you should be hydrating. I think he made a really amazing point talking about how, if you're there, you need to hydrate, of course, while you're there, but when you're going to go into these conditions, you want to hydrate ahead of time even. He said that one of the athletes out there, and I love that he refers to them as athletes, because they are, and he has very much made that a point since he's been helping out. He said that, one of the athletes said, I drank a ton of water, but I just still don't feel well. And he had, said to them, well, when were you drinking this water? And he said, well, during the round and whatnot. And he said, that's great, but you really needed to be also hydrating well into it. And I think there's a saying out there that if you're drinking water, you're already dehydrated, or if you feel thirsty, you're already, something like that. So you should always kind of pre-hydrate, so to speak. I did have a quick throwback, as some of you may have seen in the thumbnail. I've also got, I don't know, I guess I got a gift or two I should give away here tonight. If you want to get on that super chat, you can. I saw a couple of them come in already. But I thought this was cool. I've got, behind this curtain, me and my daughter did take about 400 discs out of the office today, as I'm continuing to completely gut my office and turn it into an actual studio at some point. You wouldn't believe how that banner actually has to hang up. Pretty clever. But I know I have a lot of goodies in here. I've got goodies spread everywhere, but specifically here, I've got some goodies. And one of the things that I found in one of the cabinets that I have was this. Throw that up there. So that is the USDGC guide. This is the 2010 version, because Nikko, of course, won it in 2009. So this is what it looks like on the back. and then I flip it around, and it looks like on the front. Beautiful. I don't know how well I can do this. There's Coca-Cola. You can pay me later, Coke. Beautiful caddy guide, you know, where they break down all the rules, all the holes, and such. You know, one of the staples of this event has been one of the most beautiful caddy guides. I mean, I feel like they maybe even officially set the bar when these came out all those years ago. Now, I don't know what they're handing out these days. In the last couple of years, what they've been handing out, because you can be digital. You do have, you know, of course you have UDisc and other places where all the information can be. So I'm not sure just how they look, but again, no, my kid's not holding it up, although that was joked about. Just incredible what they have in here. Looking back, totally different course, so I can't really put too much stock in this. But looking back, when Nikko won in 2009, it said he had a two-stroke lead, two-stroke margin of victory, and he had a total score of 238. Quick trivia question, only because I cheated and looked earlier today. What was the winning score last year? I guess I kind of already did some math for you, if you really were paying attention. I'll give you a hint. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. But anyway, thought this was cool. Thought I'd break it out, put it in the thumbnail. Nikko, full fro at the time. And pretty funny. That's also a Dynamic Disc shirt that he's wearing there. In fact, when Dynamic Disc was, I'll say, just an online vendor. So Juice guessed, we see -30. I don't know what it was in terms of negative or positives ultimately, but last year's winner, McBeth, was 234. And this one's listed at 238. And I don't want to, you know, diminish anyone's skill levels out there, but I'm guessing this course is actually considered many strokes harder even than what it was in 2009. I mean, we have mozzarella sticks out there, so thank you, Arby's. Appreciate that. Another cool artifact that I had in the same spot, actually, that I'll share with you guys. This is a Star Rock and a in color. I don't even know if they're still calling them in color, depending on how old school you were. I guess it wasn't an in color because it wasn't that process. But this was a disc that was then made. Sorry about the glare. But pretty cool disc with the eye. And then I believe that to be Nikko, actually, you know, in the silhouette in there. Pretty cool. So, all right. I got a couple Smashbox shirts here. If you guys want to get in on that action, I've got a couple different styles of those. We could probably make something like that happen. That's all I have for actual stats, or not even just stats, feedback, ideas, thoughts. Those are things that jumped out at me with my limited consuming of what I got done today. It feels weird to go do research. I'm going to be the first to admit I don't typically do that, to do actual stats or research. But what Disc Baron says, got his Smashbox Polo today. Thank you for being a Smashbox TV significant Patreon supporter. At our quarterly level, we actually give away a Smashbox TV shirt that's exclusive thus far to our patrons. So every couple months, a shirt will just show up, and it will be a Smashbox TV one for, obviously, our Smashbox Patreon subscribers. I'd love to know what you guys would like for me to do as my Patreon continues to be available as well for the Disc Golf Guy. Okay, and that leads me to my next point. Before I go full-blown Q&A, my next point is just Johnny V not able to join tomorrow to make an official watch party. His kid, his son, has a swim meet, and it's pretty much right within the time frame of when we were thinking about having a watch party. So what that means is I will likely have some kind of a watch party here. It's not going to be as fancy as it would have been. I can't press all the same buttons and do all the neat things that Johnny can do. I wholeheartedly admit that. I don't know if it'd be smart for me to try a few of those things. Usually I break stuff, but maybe there'll be some extra stuff I could do tomorrow. But I will likely host a watch party of sorts, probably right here then. And what I mean by that is I will have one screen playing on the event. I will obviously be attentive to it. And then I'm hoping other people will chime in and also be watching that, but then maybe we have a conversation back and forth as to what's going on. You know, I'll have UDisc live in a corner, I'll have the actual video up in a corner, and then I'll probably have our chat board up in a corner. Maybe we'll have some giveaways, or I'll do something like that as well. It's just an idea. It gives us a good place to have kind of a uniform chat board. I know that UDisc has been having a chat board as well that's available. I think there's a little bit more people that are readily planning on being on YouTube or near YouTube. So if you're interested in that, that will likely be something that I end up doing tomorrow. It won't be with that blonde superstar Johnny V, but I'd be glad to do it. So, and if you're not interested, you're not interested. I understand that as well. I mean, again, I'm going to be watching the live broadcast. I won't be rebroadcasting it. I will be watching it. I hope and assume you guys will be watching it. We'll have UDisc, and then we can have our own chat session. So, I don't know. Make some popcorn or a burrito. I don't know. It'll be in the afternoon. So, that's what we'll see. I'm kind of excited to do so. So, for the last few minutes, I told you I'm going to keep it short. Holy cow. This may even go under an hour tonight. As I thought last night would, and it went 2. So keeping it short, I want to know if there's anything that you guys are interested in seeing or hearing or talking about. I'm now just catching up on the chat board. So if you said something earlier, I may or may not have read it, but please go ahead and do it again, and I'll see if I can answer any questions or give some more specifics here. Someone with bank needs to sponsor Terry. I'll start there. Needs to sponsor Terry. He can help grow the sport into the future. Just my humble opinion. Well, I appreciate that, Real Creek. I'll just keep doing what I do, and if that turns into something a little bigger and/or more lucrative, that would be icing on the cake. And I do love icing. Does anybody call it icing? Like, does anyone say, oh, put more icing on that? I would think they would say frosting. I love frosting. All right. Kurt, sounds like a good giveaway for Terry. Get your Smashbox shirt on the live feed, win a disc. Ronald Harkey. I think Ronald was my Keen Super Chat giveaway last night. I already forwarded him the code. So, Ronald, let us know when you get those shoes. That's what I'll do tomorrow. Part of the giveaways, I think I could round up another Keen gift card, and we could make that part of the day tomorrow as well. I'm all about that. Real Creek says, T. Mill and the Champ. Commentary would be epic, for example. I appreciate that. I've known Kenny for a lot of years, and it would be fun. I think Kenny's probably good with just about anybody. He's already got that going for him, but I would love the situation to somehow make that happen at some point. And I'd be willing to bet it happens at some point. Still think the next shirt should have JVD picture on it holding a glass. Yeah, he's such a lush. Was really impressed with Alex Russell today. He almost made it onto the lead card if it wasn't for 17 and 18. Two ways to pick that apart. For starters, yes, Alex Russell, incredible player. I did not check his, I don't recall what his stats were, but I wouldn't be surprised. I know he was charging and doing quite well. But, yeah, he did start out quite hot. He was 7 down through 10. Looks like he was 8 down through 13, and then a bogey on 14, a double on 17, and a single on 18, and he sits at -14. So I'll just say 2 things to that. One, yes, great effort, good charge, solid player, no surprises whatsoever. However, we talk about 17 and 18 being 2 of the toughest finishing holes in disc golf and at the largest stage. So you know, if you're like, you know, hole 7 got him today for a double bogey, I could be like, yeah, 7's not that tough. You would expect that. No big deal. 17 and 18, you can never downplay, I think, in any capacity. But we'll see what he does tomorrow. Want that Mamba now via Super Chat? Sure, Chad. If you want to Super Chat me that way. I think you said you had a hard time reaching out to me yesterday with the with direct PayPal. So you could pay through Super Chat and then send me your address. I've got the disc you were clamoring for last night. I forgot where I put it now. Oh, it's over yonder. I've got it over yonder. Disc Golf Comedy asks, when will you and I ever do commentary together? Ever? Absolutely. Like, it's already overdue. Once I found out who you were, you know, you made me put together that video. No, I would love to do it. It could be a lot of fun, for sure. I don't want to say it could be, it will be. Chad, thank you so much. We will put that right towards the disc purchase and a few goodies I'm going to send your way. Okay. It's Friday, T-Dog. Tough to get the numbers this evening for live chat. I don't care. If there's 9 of you, 29 of you, 509 of you, I'm not too concerned. I do know, as some people talked about, this is on late, just like our Smashbox is. I realize that. However, I also expect maybe a few people, if I keep it short enough, a few people may even somewhat consume it before tomorrow's round. But then again, they'll have post-production, so it is what it is. I don't need a crowd. I don't need a crowd or a gallery to babble about disc golf. Terry, the pin on 18 will still be down by the water. Caddy Book only shows it in one location for all 4 days. Oh, that's right. I apologize. Yeah, 18 is listed as just straight 18. So I was thinking, like in the last few years, we've seen it move. It sounds like it will be back at it. It'll be there at the same spot all 4 rounds. I apologize. Thank you for the correction. Heiserbaum says, I did enjoy you being on with Johnny V when Terry was on a town, referring to Disc Golf Comedy. Yeah, I missed that one. Did Innova ever make hammers in Champion plastic? If they did, hammers are 30 years old. If they ever did that, it would have been a very short, limited edition run for like the Innova factory store. They briefly made some crazy molds like the Champion Viper and some other, really, I'll say one-offs, some really odd. I think they had released a Champion Pegasus at one point. But if they ever did a Champion hammer, I don't believe so. I would say go out and get yourself an XD or a Classic Rock if you love the hammer, the old school hammer, which I did used to throw back in the late 90s. I'm old. I enjoy the live chats. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. I know you're frequently out there and you're always seemingly active on the boards, and love seeing it. Thank you so much. I love seeing names over and over again that we begin to recognize. Just here watching on my TV. Matt says Andrew, and quick shout out to Andrew. He has in the past helped me and the Pro Tour with some statistics, with data, with some graphic stuff, and has been a Patreon supporter of Smashbox, the disc golf guy. Like Andrew, I want to say I really appreciate all of your support. Says the Disc Golf Comedy, I was the one who submitted their original video to Reddit, thought it was hilarious. Matt Pipke says he will tune in tomorrow afternoon. Watch it, like it, share it. Everyone needs to thumbs up this video. I appreciate that, Kurt. Watch where you're sticking your thumb. Good to see you on, Terry. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. I just like the video. Yeah, there's a couple likes. Ooh, a couple dislikes. So thanks to those jerks. I just like the video. As Jamie Thomas says, dealer's choice. He's a big fan of that phrase. We all have them. I heard it once or twice yesterday. I'm indifferent to it. Of course, I feel like if it's used in the right places, I kind of like it. It's unique and original to him. Who is the one that thumbs down? I think there's been a couple now, you jerks. Yeah, Johnny V. He is probably the one out there doing it, that jerk. Has Terry given his prediction for the winner? No, I'm not that controversial. What are you guys talking about? Here's what I'm going to say. I think at this point, with what happened today, I would have had a different answer yesterday, so that doesn't sound real with a whole lot of conviction. I think your winner is going to come out of the top two current. Well, I guess there's a tie for second. But the top two current, I think it's going to be Eagle or James. I think they're both going to have really solid rounds. Will Eagle catch James? I don't know. I mean, they could both shoot 10s, which would be great rounds. But I think it's going to be Eagle or James. I think consistency. I think experience. I think what they've done this week, where they're at. I think Eagle or James are going to be one of your two. Is going to be the winner. One of the two. Climo's doing a great job commentating. Sounds more professional. Far cry from the dude, no way, and totally sick dude commentary from some other productions. CCDG. Clearly different styles. I hear you. CCDG definitely has more of a laid-back West Coast chill vibe than what you're probably seeing or hearing when you are listening to, say, Kenny. Now, it's always funny because Jamie, I feel like, is very different from myself, who's, different from Robert McCall or Dixon or Nate Doss and Paul Ulibarri. I feel like everybody has their own unique style, and everybody loves or hates something about each style. And I don't think there's any... I don't care what anyone says. There is no perfect commentator. There is something that I feel like we could be nitpicky about with literally every single commentator, of course, myself included, and then some. Everybody has their likes and dislikes. I will be very generic and say, between post and live, there are a few commentators that just, it blows my mind that people are like, oh my God, they're so good. Because I don't hear that. That's not what I hear. I will never name names, but I'm just shocked by that. And then there's other times, somebody says someone's bad, and I'm like, huh? Like, it's just crazy how different everyone's tastes are when it comes to commentary. I want to see the winner come off the chase card, so Jomez films it. Okay, Jomez would love that. I'll tell you that. What would be crazy, and I didn't touch on this real quick, what would be crazy is if someone's making a run from the second or third card, the way that Fulcrum is set up technology-wise, it's going to be very, very hard, near impossible for them to go catch up with that person. They have a different technology than what we use. Clearly, it's been working great this week for them, and I can applaud it, and I love it. It has a limitation, and the limitation is you can't just peel someone off and send them to the other side of the course. You cannot do that. From what we understand, Johnny and myself understand how their technology is. That's something that can't be done. Just like a lot of people have talked about the van that's driving around the entire course, they need to be within a certain distance of that van, sending the signal back to that van. And I can't say it enough, that van doesn't work on like 70, 80, 99% of the other courses that we play during the year. So that technology, albeit great here, has huge limitations most of the other places. I mean, you literally couldn't take that van through half the holes out at Maple Hill. Could you put it on some kind of an ATV? Sure, that's not going to be as quiet. But I just cannot stress that enough, that technology is great, but it comes with that one limitation. So if somebody was 10 down through 10 on the third card, they can't necessarily just run over and catch up with them. They can't peel a person off and go over and catch up with them. They would have to go about it a different way, some way or another. That's one of the caveats or challenges that they potentially could run into tomorrow. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, I'm going to keep going. I like how CCDG is doing a lot more local and regional tournaments. It helps expose more good courses. I agree. Same with the players. There's players that you may not see or hear of otherwise, but because they're at an event, I'd like to put myself in that category too. When I go to a Maricopa Meadows Open in Arizona, or a number of other events that maybe aren't of the largest scale, but you're seeing players that I think we wouldn't typically see. Like there's a warm and fuzzy in there. You know, seeing great play and your household names is one thing, and that's going to get you more views, and so on and so forth. I understand that, but there's a lot to be said about some of those other tournaments getting some love as well. Solid prediction, thanks. It was a little bit of a cop-out. Hope it's not Eagle. Something about his game I don't like. Time for a lefty to win it. Let's go Nathan Queen. Cheering for a lefty. Got it. Totally off topic. Will the Memorial be next year's first NT with Las Vegas being an A tier? I'm going to say no. Hot take from the schedule fairy. I guess I'm not that. No, you're not going to see... you are not going to see the Memorial then become an NT next year. It's been that obviously for many, many years, like 20. And then it became the opening event for the Pro Tour. It will not be an NT opener or an NT at all next year. Some of you may have heard, yes, that Las Vegas didn't want to necessarily adhere to, I believe, the media policy that's being set forth by the National Tour next year. So they are going to be an incredible A tier. I'm assuming 4 days, but an incredible A tier, I'm sure. But they are not going to be the opener for the National Tour. I'm excited to hear about the entire National Tour schedule getting released to the rest of you. All right, I think Nate and Val make great beer. Let's leave it at that. Great. Some of the Jomez guys were using the golf carts to get ahead into spots down the fairways faster. Sounds pretty clever, especially considering the heat. Van, question mark? Smashbox TV uses flash drives that are bicycled around the courses. Yes. Well, when we were doing some things a different way, when we used to be splicing in the women's footage into the men's round, we were doing some clever maneuvering around courses. You're right. We did that for a year, or at least for a portion of the year. All right, I apologize. Let me read through the rest of these. It will be interesting to see with the crowds tomorrow how they get the van through the course with the group that usually builds around hole 16. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have to treat the van just like any other media component and make sure that the people are out of the way that need to be out of the way. And they'll probably have anywhere from 1 to 4 guys dedicated just to making sure that van gets to where it needs to be and it doesn't run anyone over. Or go in the lake. Chris Herron, a few years ago, put his truck in the lake. Still funny to this day. I'm going to miss the final round live because I'm playing in a tournament. Ryan, where are your priorities, bro? Come on. What are you playing in? Somewhere in Illinois? Insider info all about the capabilities in live coverage. The show is great. No chat board, so I can talk to my live buddies. Yeah, again, that's why I think tomorrow, if the UDIS chat board is great. It's been great. It's been available to us. Again, still only 20, 30, 40 people in there today. It's just not the same when you don't have hundreds or thousands of people participating. So tomorrow, that's part of why I want to do a watch party, because I feel like we can all a little bit more cohesively, act as a community that we're kind of used to doing when we're watching the live coverage. Someone did reach out to me today and say, hey, is there any rumors of a discounted price for the final day? And I just said, I've heard of absolutely none. Not that I would be the guy to necessarily know that. I've heard of none. Spend the $7.99 or the $9.99, whatever it is all I can say to that. Can you elaborate on the media policy? I can't too much. It's actually been somewhat kept secret from me. All I can say is that, there was talk about the post-production on the MPO side. We had heard that Jomez was going to be covering MPO 1 on the post-production side. And then we also had heard that, it feels like the PDGA wants a little bit more control of how the media unfolds at those largest events. And so I think kind of it's catch-22. They're taking some of the expense and the responsibility off of the tournament director's hands and then handling it themselves. And in some situations, that's going to be great. And in other situations, that may not bode as well. and that's what I know at a high level about the media policy. I'd love to see it. It's somewhat been kept secret from me directly. So, what do I know? Watched it roll in the water. It was hilarious. Joe says, I forgot about the car going in the lake. Yeah, that was Chris Herron, who's now a millionaire and retired and 40 and is flipping houses every other week. Not even every other week, every other day. So one recreational vehicle in the water was no big deal to him. It was then, not as much now. Car goes in the lake like every couple of years. Terry, what is the best, most pro course in all of Wisconsin, sort of like Northwood Gold? You'd have to probably go all the way, specifically you'd have to go all the way up to High Bridge, which is like southern Canada. It's where the 2007 Worlds were held. You'd have to go all the way up there. That's where you're going to find the most challenging courses, probably, if they're in tip-top shape. Otherwise, if you're in the Milwaukee area where I am, we've got Brown Deer. If the pins are in the long positions, that's an incredibly challenging course, as can be Dretska. They're still maybe not. Yeah, longs to longs, they're definitely as challenging. Those would be the two that jump out at me if you're in the Milwaukee area. We've got great courses in the Madison area, but they're not going to challenge you quite as much as Northwood Gold would. And then a couple out in Eau Claire that are really challenging. That's way on the northwest side of the state. Those are going to be your most challenging of the courses. Then there's one that's Zobel in the center of the state. That's pretty challenging and a lot of fun. And then Wilderness, which isn't too far from Madison. That's also a championship level course. And then the other two, I would selfishly plug a little bit on the south side of the state. Right when you come in Kenosha, we've got Silver Lake, the Silver Lake course, and we've got the Gray Fox course. They're 3 miles apart from one another. Me and a couple other guys ultimately designed those, and they've been very well received. I run a tournament or two there every year, and they've been very well received. And this new Silver Lake course, like if you're shooting 54, you're doing everything right. So in singles, you're playing quite well. So come play the Cold Turkey. That's what I tell you. Saturday, right after Thanksgiving. I think this year's the 13th or 14th year that I'm running it. So come play in the Cold Turkey. That's what I'll tell you to do. Albatross would have been so much better with the chat board. Yeah, people would have blown up a little bit more. Seemed like everyone's response was appropriate. That came in from the live feed. I heard Kenny and Jamie and Hannah. It was great. Silver Fox is then being mentioned. What would you want to see? Which course would you want to see Worlds at 2021? In Wisconsin or beyond? Thanks for answering your question. I'm traveling to Wisconsin, so I'll watch this in replay and write those recommendations down. Yes. Again, tell me which specific area you're in, and then within that given area, I could tell you where the best courses probably are. Okay. All right, guys. Another pet peeve of myself, I say all right way too often. It's easy to do. It's kind of how you wrap things up. With that, I want to thank you guys for joining me again tonight. Came in a little bit later than even planned earlier. I do appreciate anyone that's consuming it. Hopefully you found just an ounce or a shred of value in here and maybe got you a little bit more excited about what you're going to see in the fourth and final round. Again, tomorrow I'll be doing a watch party. I hope you can join me then, and we'll have our chat board. We'll have some giveaways. We'll tie in all sorts of stuff. Maybe some super chats, some Smashbox, some discs, some keens. We'll do all that stuff, and I'll do it just for consistency in this case. If Johnny was with me, we'd do it on Smashbox, but for consistency, I'll be right here. I'll do it right here on my channel again to make the fourth and final day right here. Oh, people are going to Shoot the Moon tomorrow. Yes, a Wisconsin tour stop over on the west side of the state. So thank you. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your Friday night. Get rowdy on everyone's behalf. And cheer loudly, proudly, all that stuff for your favorite player tomorrow. Follow them on UDisc. Join us in the live show, that the live watch party. And again, I just can't say it enough. No, I will not turn my computer toward the camera for the YouTube. I didn't pay for the feed. No, I will not be rebroadcasting. I think that would officially end any goodwill or gestures with any of my friends over at Innova. I've got too much amazing plastic and too long of a history with them to try to do that. Although I'm sure it'll be out there somewhere. And I wish you guys the best. So for Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, thank you for joining me one final time. Looking forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to you guys joining me, having some stuff. Disc golf comedy. Thank you for joining me, and I'm glad to be in your house, living room, tablet, wherever we're at. Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you to all the amazing super chatters tonight. I appreciate it. And go get some, I don't know, glow in the dark birdies tonight or something like that. Thank you guys. All right, I'm going to sign off. This one's going to be super smooth all day. No problem. Just click on that button, hit OK. See ya.